Dr. Vaughn, I woke up and I think my gums were bleeding last night.
I really appreciate you being here. I think it's really important for us to, take the time and explain and tell everyone our stories and kind of like what we've been going through. So, thank you for coming on. And, how's your day been so far?
Well, first, I just want to say thank you for having me on because I agree with you. It's super important that we get our stories out there, especially to other people in the vaccine-injured community. So I'm grateful to be here. Day has been a little hectic, honestly. I've had some calls this morning. I had an ultrasound today. I feel like that's always the case with our community in general. We're like running around trying to manage our doctors and appointments and some normalcy of like a life too. So, but it's been a little crazy and hectic, but I'm very glad to be here.
Oh, good. Thank you. Thank you for being here. Okay. So like, I kind of wanted to start, what was life like, pre-shot? What was your day to day pre the vaccination?
Wonderful. It was great. Like I had just met my fiance. Everything was going really well. We were planning our wedding. We have a dog. Like I just had a really normal, happy, healthy, active lifestyle. Like I had no underlying medical conditions that I or my doctors knew of. And, I really had a really great life. I still have a great life, but it's definitely dramatically changed. And it's a big balance of me trying to get through a lot of health related things. And I wasn't familiar with this. I had never been really injured except a car accident that healed, like an injury that healed. It wasn't like an autoimmune thing before. Right. So this vaccine injury, unfortunately, has exposed me to this whole other world of like people with chronic conditions. As long as like I didn't have the anxiety that I have now. So right. I know we focus a lot on like the physical component, but there's like this mental component of anxiety and trauma that is just really prevalent in my life now that wasn't there previous to the vaccine.
Yeah, and I think that's one of the biggest misconceptions is that, everyone that sees us or hears about us or, listens to our stories, they think that, they must have had some kind of precondition. My whole family took the shot. They're fine. Everyone I know is fine. These people must have had some kind of underlying condition or something going on with them, or they're unhealthy or, this, that, and the other. So, I'm kind of in the same boat. I had zero issues before this. I was a very healthy person. I'm the person that barely ever got sick. If I got sick once a year, it was a lot, right? And my wife is a, nutritionist, personal trainer. We ran, we ate well. It was out of the blue for me. So, I kind of feel you on that one.
I'm here with you.
Yeah.
I definitely got sick like at least once a year because I work with kids. So sure. Like, you're kind of germy and stuff, but I never had any sickness, like any cold, or I had the flu one year, like, strep throat. Those things were nothing in comparison to what I'm dealing with on like a day-to-day basis of just trying to survive, to just try like blood thinners, chemo, IVIG, like all of this stuff that just, it's like a whole different level.
Yeah. And like how I explain it to my wife is, like, it's a sickness that I've never experienced before. It's a sickness that goes down to your bones. Like, something's wrong. You know what I mean? And it's a day-to-day feeling. It never goes away. So it's definitely a chronic type of illness for sure. I'd like to start, kind of going through how this all happened to you, kind of like what your experience has been. And if you could, just take us through what happened, when you started experiencing symptoms, kind of what those symptoms have been. And then I'd like to kind of go into, what you've tried, what's helped, what hasn't, and stuff like that.
Definitely want to focus on treatments because I said before, like I wasn't able to talk about that when I was on Fox. Exactly. And I'm like, really, I want to talk about these treatments, but
I'm super interested too. You know what I mean? So I definitely want to hear that part.
100%. And I'm happy to share the story. It unfortunately is kind of a long-winded story, so feel free to cut me off and like ask any questions if you need clarification on anything. But I was actually really excited to take the vaccine, which is sad to say now in hindsight, because I had worked with kids. I wanted to protect everyone, and I wasn't per se like anti-vax at all. I was for vaccines because I had taken vaccines, through the history of my life. I'd never had any sort of reaction. But I even hate calling this a vaccine because it's really not. It's a genetic modifier that we've changed the name of to accommodate a vaccine definition. But regardless, so I took this vaccine. I took it early on, again, because I work with students. So I had it in January and February of 2021, pretty soon after it came on the market. And I had no reaction after my first shot. It wasn't until the second shot that I took it, and it was pretty debilitating. And it wasn't an immediate reaction either. There are the people who have like anaphylaxis or like some sort of immediate reaction. It was like an insidious, slow building reaction for me. So I had swelling. So it started with swelling that was in my calf muscle. And then the swelling spread to my forearm muscle. So like my left calf, which is where I was injected on my left side, became like really large and engorged. And so much so that I went to urgent care and they were like, you need to go to the emergency room right away. We think you have a clot. We think you have something going on because there's all of this extra fluid in my leg. ER did nothing. They did an ultrasound or like a Doppler and we're like, okay, you don't have a clot in there. You're fine. Go home. Like you'll be okay. And then it went from my calf to my forearm. So I was like, something is seriously wrong. And at that point I had seen my primary care doctor, and all the doctor's appointments, unfortunately, were like 2 weeks spread apart. It was like, you see your PCP, then she sends me to a vein specialist. Another 2 weeks go by. Then it's a rheumatologist. 6 weeks go by before you see that doctor. So everything was just kind of building. But I had swollen calf, swollen forearm, and then the debilitating nerve pain set in. So my hand kind of cramped up like this. I don't know if you can see it in the camera, but these fingers were elevated and I couldn't move these fingers. It was like burning, radiating pain throughout this. I went to NYU and they did an EMG and confirmed I had something called mononeuritis multiplex, where my nerves were being attacked and there wasn't enough oxygen flow. Doctors believe now that it was due to microclots, so that there were clots in my blood that were blocking the oxygen from getting to these nerves, and they were essentially like dying, like they were desperate for oxygen. So I was placed on. So I guess I won't go into the treatments yet, but NYU diagnosed something panvasculitis, arthritis notosa, which is a super rare type of systemic vein inflammation, essentially inflammation in my vein and in my arteries. That's what like vasculitis is. And I had a subset of it that was in like medium-sized vessels and small vessels. So, however, vaccine doctors, there are other doctors that I work with, like Dr. Jordan Vaughn, who believes that it wasn't necessarily vasculitis, but it was all due to this clotting and coagulation issues within my blood. So like this thickening of my blood, which kind of made sense because once we thinned my blood out, I had really good results from there. So I hope that storyline like kind of makes sense. But
it does.
Not the mononeuritis, though. I had something very rare also happen called ciliary-retinal artery sparing occlusions. So I have permanent vision loss due to this vaccine. So I had what are called strokes, like pretty much these retinal artery occlusions in my eyes. And I've now had 6 separate episodes where I've woken up and like it has been completely blurred over, like looking through glass. And then it kind of clears up, but my visual acuity is gone. So, like I went from near perfect vision because I had LASIK to now not really being able to see well at all, like out of my right eye. So it's just been, that has not been a fun side effect of all of this. I think that's the hardest one.
Yep.
Yeah. Yep. Compared to everything I had to deal with, like the nerve pain, I had purpura, these popped blood vessels, I had rashes, a rash called Lividio reticularis. All of that was like, I would do all of that all over again to have my vision back. And I just, definitely the glasses do not help. So I wear them because I also got cataracts from the steroids. So they help with like close up vision, but they don't help with the distance, which is lost due to the eye strokes.
Right. Now,
Yeah.
with the
That's my
vision
whole
loss,
story.
yeah, with the vision loss,
Yeah.
did they find, a clotting cascade in your retina or in your eyes? Did they give you an actual reason on why this is happening?
They call them transient ischemic events.
Oh,
So
jeez.
like a clot was in there
Yep.
and that clot like passed or dissolved so that I could like then see again. And there was, I mean, look, none of this is like completely concrete because I saw 7 different eye doctors. I saw 5
Right.
at NYU and 2 at MI. I have a 3rd one coming up, and there have been 3 different theories. There have 4 actually. There was a theory about inflammation in my carotid arteries, and that was the ultrasound I just got today. Because I was tapering down my steroids, they were like, if your carotid arteries got inflamed, that could have caused a lack of blood flow. That was one theory. Vasospasms was another, where my veins were actually spasming and cutting off oxygen supply. I don't think that was the case because I never had any pain, and it only happens when I sleep.
Well, not even that.
And
The vasospasms, I mean, don't they come with a lot of other symptoms, fever
like
and other
thyroid.
things, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
So
I don't have that.
Right.
So again, these are just doctors like postulating. And then there was something called NAION. I can't remember what that acronym stands for, but it was like a rare condition again. And that kind of made the most sense to me because I woke up with this painless vision loss, and it only happens when I sleep. So it's not like during the day, my eyeglass is over. It's only upon waking up in the morning or during a nap that my eye is just completely glassed over, and then it gets better. But I lose like they think because of a lack of oxygen flow to the little capillaries in the retina that I've now lost like permanent vision loss. And that's the scariest when we talk about like the anxiety and the trauma. Like I can't tell you how scared I was to go to sleep at night because I didn't know if I was going to wake up. I've now had 6 episodes of this where it's like, am I going to wake up and have another one of these? And it's really, unfortunate and overwhelming.
It really is.
Sure.
It really is. And like, the temporary vision loss in the morning, I mean, it almost sounds like you were saying like a vascular inflammation, because if it was, if it wasn't something that fluctuated, right? Like, the inflammation wouldn't make sense. But if it's something that's fluctuating, especially if it's worse in the morning and gets better during the day, it sounds very reminiscent of like an inflammation in some sort.
What's weird is that it also 2 of the 6 times it happened when I was napping. So I was on treatment and I was so tired that I was like, I'm going to go rest my eyes for like 20, 30 minutes. And within 20 to 30 minutes, I woke up and the eye was completely glassed over. And that was like midday. That was like 1 or 2 o'clock. It wasn't, very late at night. So like some of the theories that the doctors throw out, I'm like, it doesn't check all the boxes that I'm listing, but I'm just like, I don't know what to do about this. And I can't be on steroids forever. I can't be fighting because that caused cataracts, that caused and a whole slew of other things like bone density loss and, all gastrointestinal problems. Like it was, So it's like trying to figure out, pick your poison, right? All of these medicines have bad side effects, but how do you manage those side effects with, treatment of your actual vaccine injury? So
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, so for me, my symptoms and, back to the whole sleep thing. Now, there's a theory out there. Well, it's not really a theory. It's kind of like a fact at this point, but I don't know how much it plays into what our symptoms are. But, I was reading a couple of papers on viscosity of blood in the morning and how it tapers off during the day. And I was like, wow, this makes a lot of sense because, my symptoms are the worst in the morning. Every morning that I wake up, I literally feel like I ran a marathon the day before. I feel like I'm 90 years old and my symptoms are flaring. And throughout the day, they kind of wax and wane. I'm a part of a study at Yale. I'm not sure if you're a part of that study. And Dr. I think her last name is Akako? Dr. Akako?
Yeah.
I could be wrong on that.
I've heard of her before. Go ahead. Keep going.
No, it's okay. She's finding a lot of cortisol issues. She's seeing very high or very low cortisol issues. And, what they're seeing is that it could correspond, with long COVID and with vaccine injury. And that goes back to the the inflammation that could be, affecting the pituitary gland and other things. So it's a widespread vascular inflammation type of illness, I believe, personally. There's a lot of other theories out there, but I feel like we're definitely dealing with, inflamed veins, lack of oxygen, microclots, like you were saying.
Yeah. And now there are a lot of studies to confirm this too. It's not just us like postulating. It's like strokes are going, like they've admitted that strokes are high. It's like, okay, well, what causes stroke? Like clotting cascades, like thickness of blood, like sludging of your blood, right? Like, so yeah, it's definitely circulation, microclots, endothelial lining issues. It's all happening. I'm lucky, and you're lucky too. Like we're past that. I think you're past the 4 to 6 month mark of your vaccine, right? Because that's like when sudden those cardiac like events that, so I'm like, I try to put it into perspective where I'm like, I'm alive and I'm still here. Like,
I know.
I can't see well out of my eye, but like,
I'm still here. Yeah. And, to touch on one last thing before I kind of want to go over some treatment stuff, is the mental health part of this, right? Like you were saying, like I didn't suffer really from anxiety or depression. I mean, I had a great life. I was working in, the entertainment industry in Los Angeles for 15 years. I just had a son. I love my wife more than anything in the world. Like I had a good life. You know what I mean? There wasn't very many things to be upset about. And when this reaction started, I just felt a flip in almost everything. The depression, the anxiety, the overwhelming adrenaline dumps. That's what, a lot of people call them. And it turned into, insomnia. It turned into, just up and down, very unregulated, strong emotions that I couldn't control. And I've never had experienced anything like this before. So yeah, I mean, I definitely understand that we've been affected physically and mentally. And then on top of that, the PTSD that we're going through. The cancellation, the silencing, the gaslighting by the doctor community. I mean, it's just it's kind of an endless bombardment on us, from every angle, really. And it's very tough to deal with, and I don't think a lot of people understand that.
Yeah, I don't know if people realize, but the suicide rate in like the vaccine injured population is much, much higher than the generalized population, and they mentioned that in like the Advocacy. Yeah, like it's real. Like what we're going through is so real because of like these 3 different areas that you mentioned, right? Like it's like physical, it's mental. It definitely takes its toll. I went to therapy. I mean, I'm still in therapy now, but I had never really needed it previously, like except for like a traumatic event. Like my mom passed away when I was little. I went into therapy. Like there were certain catalysts, but like here, with this vaccine injury, I knew I needed some sort of professional help because it was just, my husband would come home and I would just, and we were just engaged at that point in time. So to see me sobbing, like I would be fetal position on the couch crying, my hand cramped up, like thinking I had ALS. Like my mind, these like places where it was like, you lose control of your own body, and that is a very scary thing when you've been in control of it for decades upon decades. So
it's an impossible thing to describe. That feeling is an impossible thing to describe. I mean, when I go through my seizures and when I go through, my muscle spasms and I constantly 24/7 have fisculations all over the place. I mean, but I've kind of gotten used to those. You know what I mean? But yeah, the uncontrollable part of this aspect is impossible to describe if you don't go through it. It's so scary.
And I just wish, I wish for all of us that we had obviously never taken it. And I try to like move past that because I don't want to like harbor and dwell on it because obviously you can't change it. But the whole purpose of us talking about it is to get to that population of people that maybe haven't taken it or who are like, oh, my work still needs it. I'm going to go get boosted. Like this can happen on any shot that you're taking. There's no, I think they call it like good something, oh my God, what is it? It's like if you have an Advil in Florida and you take an Advil in Texas, it's like the same dose, right?
Yep.
Like our vaccines don't have any sort of compliance. Like it
Right.
could be a much more fatal dose. Mine
Yep.
was 12% fatal, my dose. So
Yeah, my dose was high. I don't think it was as high as 12%, but it was up there. It was up there.
yeah, I mean, it's so scary to think of. 12% of people are dying from taking this, and you're
Yeah.
going to give it to more and more people. No, but let's put it in babies.
I
Like,
know. I know. I mean, and that's you know, the crazy thing is this has gone as far as me moving, right? Like I had to leave California because I refuse to put this into my son. Flat out refuse. And California is probably one of the craziest states in the country when it comes to this. And, you know, I said enough is enough. I'm not going to comply to this. I don't want my son, you know, having this stuff in his bloodstream. And, you know, we left. There was
that
one
takes
thing
so
that
much courage to do. Yeah.
this has changed everything. You know, this has changed the entire trajectory of my life path. You know, I thought I was on a path and I had an end goal, and this has completely altered that trajectory. Mostly bad, some good ways. You know, I definitely respect the little things in life. You know, my son is the most important thing on the planet to me, and, you know, I will do anything to have him grow up in a world where he's not subjected to the things that we're going through currently. So, you do gain a couple of good things, but it's mostly bad out of this whole thing.
Try to
okay.
look for the silver lining.
Yeah. I mean, you
Like-
kind of have to, you know, right? I mean, because this will envelop you to the point where, like, you don't even want to get off the couch anymore. You're like, what is the point? Like, I'm just so sick. I feel so horrible all the time. It's like, what is the point of getting up? But yeah, you have to look at the positive things. You know, look at the things that you still have. I mean, there are people that are suffering worse than us. There are people that are no longer with us, right? So, like, we have to take everything with a grain of salt, and we have to look at the positive natures that are still left in our situations.
I think that's very healthy and very big of you, because not everyone is able to do that. And I'm still working my way through that, right? Like,
it's hard.
I tried to say, like, yeah, we're lucky because we're here. We didn't have 7 cardiac arrests. We can fight this. We can try to get better. But reality is, like, every time I open my eyes, I can't see the way that I used to see. So it is, like, so apparent for me because I can't make things out. Like, it's just, there's such a real fear there. But you're right. Like, you have to try to just push through it and think of the wonderful things. And like I said, I still have a relatively happy, healthy life, life because of my husband and my dog and all of those things. Just like you have your boy, right? Your son to live for.
I mean, we'll get there, right? Like, they mess with the wrong people. Like, it's insane.
It's already starting to change. The narrative is already starting to shift.
It's already starting to change, and it's insane the strength that I've seen in people. It's like I said, some of the vaccine injured are so severely debilitated, and they still strive every day to get up, to move around, to do things, to get better, to try to, advocate and get the word out there and let people know. And the strength that I've seen in human beings is just, it's kind of blown me away, to be honest with you. I never thought that I would be as strong as this has made me, right? Like, if you talked to me 6-7 months ago, like, I'm a completely night and day different person where I was 6, 7, 8 months ago. I mean, I was pretty much bedridden. And, with just getting up and moving around every day, healthy diet, and a couple of other things that we've tried, and we'll kind of go over that a little bit later, I've gotten to a point. I've gotten to a point where I can sustain throughout the day for the most part, right? I still have my bad days. I'm still in bed a couple of days in a row, especially if I get sick. If I get a cold or any little thing, man, it just sends me right back to day one, and it's awful. But I'm getting to the point where I'm getting some kind of sustainability through my daily routine. So I'd like to touch on kind of like what you've tried, what has really worked for you, what hasn't, because I know that you've gone through so much, and I think that's the biggest takeaway that the audience will receive is the different treatments. Before we go through this, I would like to state, because unfortunately we live in our current situation that we are with censorship and other things, I do want to state that the CDC does recommend vaccines. They do say that they are safe and effective, and that, we are not doctors, right? We are not medical professionals. We are just people telling our stories. We're just sharing our experiences of what we go through, right? The treatments that we talk about and the things that we have tried, everybody's situation is different. So we are not recommending anything. We're not saying to go try this, right? Anything that you want to add or subtract from your current therapies or current things that you're on, please, please, please talk to your doctor. Do not listen to people on YouTube. All right. So with that kind of with that being said, right? With that being said, so if you'd like to let us know kind of like what you went through, I think it'd be very helpful.
Yeah, I think that that's really important to note too, is that like, I'm not a doctor, but I can just tell you about my experience and what has worked for me. And, please, if you can link my YouTube, my Instagram, because people have reached out to me through, that venue. If they have any questions, I can try to clarify, or I can point you in the direction of the doctors that do believe in these injuries and help people, because it took me over 20 doctors to get the team in place that I currently have. So, and I'm quite meticulous. Like, I do a lot of research on my doctors as well. So I feel like, okay, I think I'm in a pretty good hands now. But, okay. So once NYU diagnosed panvasculitis, I was immediately put on very, very, very high doses of steroids. It was 60 milligrams of steroids, which I have not even been off of steroids yet. So that was over a year, and it was October of the prior year. So October, November, December, January, a year and 4 months ago, I've been placed on steroids, and I've been tapering from 60 down. I'm now at 0.5, half of a little dose. So I'm like close to being there. And it was a drastic change in a lot of things. So if you've never taken steroids before, I had never taken steroids until this. I gained almost 25 pounds. Like, my whole demeanor kind of changed. It creates insomnia. It creates like a lot of other issues. However, it kept me alive. And like, I try to put it into perspective. It did unfortunately create cataracts in my eyes. So I had to go in for cataract surgery due to those high doses of steroids. So they removed one of the lenses of my eyes, and the other one, there's a cataract forming, but I'm just going to kind of keep it because I don't want to go through that again for now. So I was placed on high doses of steroids. They then tried something called IVIG. IVIG is human gamma globulin infusion. So I went to NYU's infusion center for 3 months in a row, getting high doses of IVIG 4 days in a row. So pretty much for a whole work week, I was out for three months. And IVIG was really challenging in its own right, because you feel exhausted and really tired, and just, it can also cause like thrombophilic events. So I really advise people to test their thrombophilia panel. Unfortunately, NYU did not do this. And I actually had one of my eye episodes after my 3rd month, 4th day of IVIG. Right. So it was due to some sort of stroke or like a clot, because IVIG can cause clots too. So if you have a vaccine that causes clots, and then you have a treatment that can cause clots, it's not a good combination. So IVIG, unfortunately, did not work for me. Right. The FLCCC, the Frontline Critical Care Alliance, mentions like a little paragraph about it. It can work for other people. It did not work for me. So at that point, they then put me on a chemotherapy drug to suppress my immune system. That was called azathioprine. I got violently sick, violently ill on that. And my liver enzymes spiked. My ALT and AST went through the roof. So they were like, okay, this is not the drug for you. But now we really know what to do with you, because you can't stay on high doses of steroids like this. And the 2 alternatives are not good for your body isn't reacting well. Right. And at this point, I was already exploring other doctors outside of NYU, because I felt like they weren't working specifically with the vaccine injured population. They were working from more of a rheumatological perspective of vasculitis. Mm-hmm. So I luckily through Instagram, someone sent me a video of Dr. Pierre Corey, Dr. Jordan Vaughn, and there were 2 other doctors on the video. And that's when I kind of went into full blown, like, I got to find a vaccine doctor. And Dr. Jordan Vaughn put me on triple therapy. Those were 3 separate blood thinners, Eliquis, Plavix, and baby aspirin. And immediately following like those treatments, I did have substantial improvements. So I had my rashes, the lividio reticularis went away, the purpura, these popped blood vessels that were all over my chest and like on my hips, gone. And then pain inside of my eyeballs. So for months, I had this pain inside of my actual, like almost in the core of your eyeball. I don't know what that is called, but I just kept thinking to myself, oh, it's these cataracts that have formed through the steroids. It's these cataracts. Well, I got the cataract surgery and the pain was still there until I did the triple therapy. And I think it provided an opportunity for blood to kind of flow to these areas and diminish the pain, because my hand also went down. My fingers are normal. Like everything, it just allowed blood to flow to these areas. You have to be careful. I will say this, because there is called reperfusion. This did happen to me where I guess some clots were broken and blood like flew into the area.
Yeah.
And on my chest, I now have like quite prominent blue blood vessels. Like kind of, they look a little kind of freaky because it's like there's like dilation of them. Right. So I think you have to see, and then doctors like pulled me back and we switched from triple to dual therapy. So, you know, you're a guinea pig. Like they're testing this stuff out of you, unfortunately. But out of all the treatments, I think triple was the most beneficial because it allowed me to taper off these steroids that I had not been able to get off of. And I think, you know, now they also have this test. Dr. Jordan Vaughn and Mount Sinai are both doing microclotting tests. So you
really,
can actually
that's interesting.
That's huge. That's a game changer.
It really is.
We see the stage of your microclots. I was diagnosed as stage 2.5, 3. So now that I'm on treatments, we're going to retest every 6 weeks to see, hey, are the amount of clots going away? Like, am I breaking this down? So I know, I think you said you were on nattokinase. There's supplements too. We should mention that. I want to just focus on like the hard meds, but I did, I know people are going to talk going to be the horse tranquilizer, whatever. It was the most beneficial treatment for bringing down my spikes. I have blood work. I have blood work after my month of. My spikes were above 2,500. My total spike antibodies, you could take that test with Quest or LabCorp, and they were down into the 300s after. And it was a huge game changer for me too. So
that's interesting.
Massive spike reduction. So the whole goal for me is to reduce the spike load in my system, because spikes can cause inflammation and all different sorts of problems, but also to now thin my blood out and address the microclots that have also formed.
Did you ever get a chance to do Bruce Patterson's panel, looking at the S1?
So I did. I had 0.11, I think, spike in my blood circulating. I haven't retested that. I actually have the kit here. And I do need to retest, but I also did his cytokine panel, and everything was elevated.
Yeah.
If you want,
mine's through the roof too. Yeah,
it was like high. Yep. Except like one thing was low, but that was actually bad to be low. So I was like,
right. It's like okay.
I was like, fuck.
I know.
I haven't retested, so I have both kits because I mean, there were again, talk about finances here too.
Yeah.
It's not only affecting your mental health, your physical health, it's going to affect your financial abilities.
And there's so not to break off a topic real quick, but I do want to cover this really fast. And you know, we probably could do this at the end, but I'd like to kind of bring this up now since we're on the topic.
Sure.
Here's the thing, right? Like you said before, I was not an anti-vaxxer. I was not a person that did not believe in science. Anyone that knows me knows that I was the guy that, you know, was always listening to the scientists, looking at the next research, doing this, that, and the other thing, right? And part of the reason why I even got the vaccine is because I started digging into the spike protein, into what possible reactions you could get from COVID itself. And my dad had cancer, so I wanted to protect him, right? So I got the vaccine, and my symptoms actually started the next day. The thing is that, like, one of the worst things that's happening now is that there's no help, right? Like, they made tens to hundreds of billions of dollars if you look at all of them, collaboratively.
100 billion.
That's what I'm
Pfizer
saying.
alone,
Yeah, that's what I'm
billion.
saying. And if you look at that amount of money, right, the least they could do is just help. Just look, just start a study, try some treatments with us, get us back on our feet, right? You want to talk about vaccine hesitancy? The vaccine hesitancy is not on us. It is not our fault for telling people what's going on with us. The vaccine hesitancy is coming from the lack of transparency from pharma and from government, right? Like, we're not creating this, right? I mean, okay, so let's look at it this way. They say we're extremely rare, right? If we're extremely rare, how is the entire, I would say, world at this point somewhat vaccine hesitant, right? So it's not because of us. It's coming from the lack of transparency, the cover-ups, the straight up denial that we even exist. The lies, right? So, to me,
censorship, disinformation. I mean,
right,
all of it.
right.
Red
So,
flags galore.
yeah. I mean, they all they say is that they want to fight disinformation, right? The CDC, all of our government agencies. Yeah, they say we want to tackle vaccine misinformation, and vaccine hesitancy. Okay, so just be honest and help us, right? Set up a little bit of a fund, do some studies. Let's find out what is going on. And actually, you know what? Let's update vaccines, because if this ever gets worse or if it comes back, let's update vaccines and try to make it right? Like, or are you just going to continue to injure people to just let this go, right? And just keep vaccinating over and over and over again and just see where we wind up 5-10 years down the road? I mean, it's the most unbelievable worst strategy I've ever seen out of any government policy, any world policy for that matter, I think, in history. And we need to do something and try to change it.
Yeah, I think this is the biggest kind of criminal act against humanity that we'll hopefully ever see within the span of our lifetimes, because if something like this happens again, like, people are dying because of the vaccines and because of the government and their propaganda to promote this vaccine without actually having proper trials, regulating those trials to make sure that Pfizer wasn't dropping people from them that were having severe adverse reactions. I mean, there's so much corruption, and again, like, this could be its own whole.
It really could be its own topic, its own conversation.
Unfortunately, if it's the former or the latter, the way that things are going, it will be the latter. Pfizer will not put $1 towards helping anyone that's injured, because why would they? They've already collected all of their money. They've already made $100 million. What are they going to do? We're going to help other people? What? For humanity, because it's the right and moral thing to do? Not going to happen. Pfizer has a huge criminal record. They've had the biggest fine, $2.3 billion against them. But all of this doesn't come into the media or doesn't get promoted until after the fact, right? Oh, yeah, now we're going to say that the vaccines are causing strokes 2.5 years later. Oh, yeah. Okay, great. Yeah. Like, where was all of this? You pushed it in us.
Everything that we were saying. Yep. Everything that we were saying.
Disgusting.
It really truly is. And everything that we were saying 2 years ago, has slowly come to light. It's slowly being exposed. It's slowly coming out. And, even on, if you look at Twitter, because I'm on Twitter Spaces a lot, and there's still people out there that are completely clueless or completely in denial that any of this is ever possible, right? Oh, we're 100% trusting government. We're 100% doing this. You are this, that, and the other thing. And it's like, why? It's like, why would I change my entire life to go after this for absolutely no reason, right? When I was on the other side of the fence pre this whole thing, right? Like, why would I do this? It just doesn't make sense. So, I mean, it's a never ending battle, but like I said before, we're just got to keep going. I think we're making headway, and I think if we keep pushing, I think eventually we're going to get somewhere.
And Congress just passed, I think it was Congress or the House, someone just passed a bill.
Senate,
I saw it on
think,
Fox.
Senate, yeah.
Yeah, that was like all the information's now declassified so that we have access to it and we can actually hear what was going on because, apparently it was a bat in a wet market in China, but not the Wuhan viral institute in China. So, it's crazy. And sorry, I don't wish ill upon anyone that wouldn't be like a proper Christian, but
I know.
I will just say that God will serve justice to Dr. Anthony Fauci and to the CEO of Pfizer and to all of these people either in this world or
the
like the afterlife. Yeah, like those people are going to get theirs because what they did is just, it is, like you said, one of the biggest crimes against humanity. And
I don't know how they sleep at night. I mean, I don't understand how they look themselves in the mirror and look at their children or their family. I don't understand how they live with themselves. I really don't, because they know these things are happening. So, to bring it back full circle, I'd like to talk and kind of wrap up, what you're doing as far as treatment, in the future, like what you're looking forward to. What the next steps are with your current doctors. Are there any doctors that you're looking at that might possibly be another step forward? Kind of, in that nature.
Yeah. So I definitely strongly recommend people look into the FLCCC and their top doctors because they actually believe in vaccine injuries and they won't gaslight you, which is like step one. But I've worked with Dr. Jordan Vaughn, and he is fantastic. He's one of the only doctors that has the microclotting test. So in terms of next steps, I'm currently on a protocol that includes Eliquis, aspirin, nattokinase. I'm looking at like my supplements over here. There's like a wall.
It's a whole wall of them.
But I did try one called Nepronol, which is a lumbar kinase, nattokinase, serapeptase all in one. And it was like a little too extreme for me.
Really?
So I'm trying to see how I just do with the nattokinase. And then I'm going to retest my blood for microclots. On top of that, in terms of the vision, there really is no set treatment options right now. I try to make sure that my blood pressure is actually high before going to bed. I thought it could be a circulation thing. So I drink like a salt, usually it's like miso broth before bed. I elevate my legs. Like I sleep like a crazy person. I have these like eye patches, so nothing like hits my eyes. Like my poor husband's like conned into marrying me now because like I look a certain way and I go to bed and I'm like, I look like a crazy person. But I have these like clear eye patches that I like tape onto my face so that nothing touches my eyes because I can't like lean on a pillow and have the circulation go. So like mosquito like clear big bug things. So I have sleep with those. Just anything to keep my eye, like preserve my eyesight the best that I can.
Quick question about the clots. Did they get a chance to analyze the clots to the point where they could tell you if they were like kind of like fibrous or like if they involved fibrin or there were different types of clots? Like, did they get a chance to actually do any kind of deep analysis on them?
Yeah, I'm going to see if I can just scroll through Dr. Vaughn's text message. And that's another thing, like, who the hell has a text message from their doctor? Like, when you have the right team, awesome. It's like different. So this is what they found in me. I don't know if you can see this. That is like one level of clot. So there's like debris, and that's not a vein. That's a clot in my blood. So Dr. Vaughn sent this to me, and he said to me pretty much that like, just looking at your blood, you have plenty of them. So like,
gosh, yeah,
all it was. I just got pictures, and then his nurse practitioner sent me a bunch of the images. We're just going to reevaluate those images again in like 6 weeks after the protocol. Gotcha. So, but otherwise, I'm doing my best to not get COVID still. I want to get back, and I'm trying to take it day by day, lowering my steroids and fighting off inflammation. I test my SED rate a lot. My SED, my vitamin panels, and my C-reactive protein. Those are like the tests that I get most of and my spikes and my spike antibodies. So like monthly I go to Quest for all those. But I'm just really grateful for this microclotting test, because it's like an actual measurable way now versus just saying like, oh, there are these fibrin clots. Like, no, now I have an image of what that looks like, and like I can see it changing over time and hopefully getting smaller and smaller. And
you can actually have a goal line to work towards. See, I don't have that yet. And, I need to do more, and I kind of envy you a little bit for as much as you've done and as much as you've tried. I kind of took the approach where I was like, all right, I had this I just dove into the vaccine. So now that I have this reaction, I'm going to kind of sit back a little bit and wait to see kind of what happens with all these treatments that people are trying. I know it was a little bit selfish on my end, but I have PTSD from this. I'm literally afraid of taking things now. I don't want to go back to where I was before, right? And it's just it's a hard thing to get through. And and I appreciate you sharing this, because it does help. I mean, you have no idea the service that you're providing to people that are going through this, that haven't gone through all those things yet, right? Because there is no direct path. There is no protocol, quote unquote, that is going to be 100% as of right now. And people are just kind of throwing things at the wall and seeing what sticks. Again, like I said, I'm in a lot of Twitter spaces, and I listen to a lot of what these doctors are saying, and a lot of the treatments that they're trying, and all these other things. And almost every doctor has a different perspective and a different treatment. And I'm kind of just like, okay, I really don't want to be a guinea pig anymore. And you know what I mean? I'm kind of tired of that. And B, at one side, I appreciate what these doctors are trying to do. I strongly appreciate that a lot of these guys are standing out on a ledge, and they're taking one hell of a chance and sticking their neck out for us. And I appreciate that so much. But at the same time, we have to understand that, we don't know the mechanism of action yet. We're getting a lot closer than we were 2 years ago, but we don't definitively know that. And, some of these guys, and I'm not saying, a lot of them, but some of them are pushing things that I think, A, aren't going to do anything, and B, are a giant waste of money for people that are extremely financially stressed already. So, you are doing one heck of a service towards us, because you've kind of gone through the gambit, right? And you being brave enough to share your story is so helpful. You have no idea. So I really want to thank you for that, and I appreciate your time that you spent with us. And so
Happy.
Yeah.
You want to say, don't negate what you're doing, because what you're doing is the natural approach to and a lot of people don't have the strength to do that. I think you had told me you cut out gluten, you cut out dairy, you cut out these things, and that takes a lot of willpower. Most people want to continue to eat their shit that they're, their chicken Parmesan sub or whatever, versus I also tried to do the Wales protocol. I don't know if you've heard of that before, but it's 6 to 9 cups of vegetables a day kind of thing, and hypernourishment, and it's challenging. So what you're doing is a natural way of giving your body the nutrients it needs to do its best effort to heal. So I don't want to negate the natural too versus the pharmaceutical stuff,
not at all.
I think for people, the best thing would be the combination of both,
Right. And for people that don't know, basically my approach to this whole thing has been diet. I have completely cut out all sugars, pretty much. Most carbs, gluten, stuff like that. My day consists of eggs, organic turkey bacon from a local farm close to here, broccoli and carrots that are kind of made into what are they called? Hash browns, pretty much. That's my breakfast every morning, right? For lunch, it's organic chicken, again, from a local farm, sweet potatoes, broccoli. That's it. I do snacks of almonds and sweet potato chips during the day. For dinner, same thing. Chicken, broccoli, sweet potatoes. And I've done that. I've done nothing but that for the last 6 months, and that has been the biggest improvement out of anything I've tried. So it's daily movement. Movement, I think, is so key because of our clotting inflammation issue. And, sleep. Sleep has been also a gigantic help for me. I am in bed every single night, 10 o'clock. I wake up at 6 a.m. every single day, and I'm military with it and militant with it because I've noticed that when your sleep patterns regulate, that helps a lot with cortisol. That helps a lot with, some kind of some of the chemical imbalances that we're dealing with and hormonal issues that we're dealing with. HBOT, and I'm looking into EBO2. So
I did EBO2. I forgot to mention that.
Did you find it pretty beneficial?
So, I will say financially, it's crazy. It was $3 grand to do it in New York City. There's only like 2 machines in all of New York. But now there's a place closer to me called Coltsneck Stem Cells that offers it. And I'm thinking about doing it again. I will say it's hard to tell sometimes exactly which treatment is going the way is beneficial because I'm doing so many treatments at once. Right. But they filtered out like a cup of white, disgusting, foamy stuff from my blood. And I had never done any sort of filtration. I'm 37. So my whole years, I'd never done anything. So there was like a cup of junk. They said like heavy metals and impurities and all this stuff. So there's definitely like visual evidence that stuff is coming out of you.
For sure.
So it's like, again, I don't know how much of that was useful versus, LDN or all the other treatments that I was taking.
Right.
I definitely think it was. And I also do ozone, by the way, monthly ozone. So
and
HBOT.
Were you suffering from the head pressure, the brain fog, the dizziness, the boat feeling, all that kind of stuff, or thankfully only the brain fog, concentration, issues. I have very bad memory now. I have fine long-term memory, but if I put something down and then literally I turn away, I'll be like, what did I put that? I can't remember. Or I'll have a conversation with my husband about something and then I'll completely forget that I had a conversation with him about this. It's like, I'm only 37. I feel like I might be that's horrible to say, but something's going on with my memory. Yeah, for sure. And again, I think it boils down to the lack of oxygen. I really do. There's a lot of things. There's a lot of. I mean, I'm mostly neurological. My symptoms are mostly neurological and gastrointestinal. Right. I have severe weight loss. I've lost close to 40 pounds. I've luckily leveled off now. I kind of plateaued and I haven't really dropped. And, I make sure that I eat a certain amount of calories every day to kind of maintain this weight. But for my neurological symptoms, I was very interested in looking at LDN. And that's why I kind of asked if you had the whole, inertia, vertigo, head pressure type of things. Because that's what people say, kind of helps the most was the LDN. So I didn't know if you had any of those.
Too. LDN helps with neuropathy and the
I have that as well. Yep.
I had those in my forearms and my calves. So LDN, again, for me, it's hard because I'm like the opposite of you. I'm like, give it all to me. Give me all the drugs, which isn't good. Again, I did IVIG and I had an eye episode. So sometimes it's not beneficial to do that way. And I did recently say no to a doctor. I said no to Dr. Vaughn. I'm not going to go back on triple therapy. I'll do dual and I'll add a supplement. Because sometimes these treatments are really
they're brutal,
aggressive. Yeah, they're super aggressive. This might be TMI for the podcast, but blood thinners are not your menstruation, your cycle becomes like a crime scene. And I lost so much blood that I needed to now go for iron infusions because I lost tons and tons of blood. Right. So it should be 2 to 3, 3 to 4 days maybe was my period. It lasted almost 12. That's very abnormal.
Did you see abnormal menstruations post vaccination before the no? Okay.
I was normal until I did triple therapy, and then I was on massive amounts of blood thinners, and then my period became crazy. So then I had to go, like I said, for iron infusions. And I was like, I can't tell with the reperfusion of like my blood vessels too. I was like, I don't know if I'm having an eye episode now because of the oxygen going back or because of the vaccine. So I was like, I'm pulling that treatment and now I'm going to modify and do more natural, more of the supplements, more, other things. So I think again, like somehow a combination, too, you're right. If you sit back and you watch what's happening, more paths are going to come up that are clearer as like, this is a more beneficial treatment than this. And you'll have an answer. For me, unfortunately, I didn't have you said though too, like you were bedridden. Like I was still functioning. I wasn't bedridden, but I don't have the heart issues that some people have.
Oh, mine are terrible. Yeah, mine are terrible. Like my POTS is awful. And one thing that I did notice, and I want to let people know, let people know this, is that pink Himalayan salt. I've added, pink Himalayan salt, and I take regimens of that. That's helped astronomically with my POTS. And my POTS symptoms still come and go, but they are night and day different since I started my salt regimen. So you might want to take a look at and talk to your doctor about the salt regimen. So it's just certain increments of pink Himalayan salt throughout the day, and then I add it to all of my foods. So I even add it into my water once in a while, and it's the salt uptake that helps POTS syndrome, and that's been known for a long time. So any kind of sea salts or pink Himalayan, you want to stay away from table salts. Table salt is awful for you, but any natural salts are really good for POTS. At least it's worked for me.
For you, yeah. We're not doctors.
I know.
What works for us. So, no, that's great. I mean, look, any natural treatments like that, I mean, why would you take a pharmaceutical if you can take salt and feel better?
Exactly.
So,
I mean, I saw one naturopath up in Connecticut, and she was phenomenal, and she did a great job. She completely emptied my bank account, so I couldn't continue seeing her. But the information that I got from her was extremely beneficial. And, there were some things that she recommended that didn't work at all, and there were some things that really helped. And it has got me to the point where I'm sitting up and talking to you today. So, I want to be very thankful for her. Her name was Jaquel Patterson. She's up in Connecticut. If anybody's interested, I can send a link to Jaquel Patterson. Yeah, she's up in Connecticut. Yeah, Fairfield, Connecticut. Yeah, she's excellent. So I'd recommend her to anyone. But yeah, I mean, so kind of to wrap this up, I do. Again, like I'm very appreciative for you to come on. I know this is not easy. I know it's not easy to talk about it. I know it's not easy to get in front of people that are going to say that we're completely full of it and that, this is in our heads. I think there was a big study that just came out saying that this was, anxiety in women. And that was the main driver of, long COVID and vaccine injury. I mean, that kind of stuff just boils my blood. And, you being courageous and coming on and talking about your injury is, it's a benefit to everyone. So I want to thank you very much for coming here and letting us know and giving us information on what you're going through. And I'd love to have you back. I mean, I'd love to have this conversation again.
Yeah, me too. Actually, we can dive a little deeper down the rabbit hole on how angry we are about these things.
Absolutely.
It was like a tangent, but it makes me, to like let go of the anger so I can help myself in the healing process. But when this started, holy shit, I was like talking to my husband about going to like one of those rage rooms where you like hit shit.
I know.
I'm so mad. My life is just not you said it really well, and I'm not going to articulate it well, but like the trajectory of your life is now different than what or it can be different. And I'm hoping it's just a phase, and I'm hoping my vision regulates and everything's good, but it's still really scary. But regardless, the whole reason I'm doing this and reliving through my trauma again and again is to just help other people. So, I hope you can link my Instagram or something if people have questions about my treatment, about anything, or just really just need support and someone to listen who actually believes what you're going through. I'm always happy to help in any way that I can and to connect with others. Yeah,
absolutely. Yeah, we'll link your Instagram, and then any other links that you would like to provide. I'll make sure that they're in the description. Also, is there any websites or doctors or anything that you would like to point out before you go that people could look up?
I always mention these, the FLCCC, obviously,
Yep.
Frontline Critical COVID Care Alliance. And I say obviously, but I didn't know about that for like the
Right.
first year of my injury. So I
Right.
wish I would have, because it would have been pointed in the direction of the appropriate doctors sooner. But now it's like second nature for me to check that website. So the FLCCC, they're great. They have a weekly podcast or like a webinar with some of the top doctors on Wednesday nights at 7 that talk about, what's happening in the injured community and what's kind of going on. So definitely recommend them. And Dr. Pierre Corey, who's part of that organization, is fantastic. And Dr. Jordan Vaughn. Those are the team of doctors that are just really wonderful. So
yeah, I will be definitely looking up Dr. Vaughn. I'm extremely interested in the microclot analysis. I think that's a huge part of us.
He's one of the only doctors, like I said, Mount Sinai does have the capability to do the microclotting test. And they did actually. Dr. David Petrino just posted in National Geographics that 100% of his patients came in who had long COVID had microclots. 100%
Interesting.
had microclots. So, but the unfortunate thing is that it is a study and they are not treating doctors, so they can tell you have microclots, and then that's it.
Right.
It's like,
and that's basically it. Yeah, it's like, so what do I do?
Yeah. So, and they're also only at this point working with long COVID patients. I think, one of the first people to ask them, start working with the vaccine injured. Like, we need to get this approved for the vaccine injured. So they resubmitted, and now I think soon I'm supposed to be hearing from them if they're going to be offering it to the vaccine injured community, because it's so important. But regardless, if you don't work with Mount Sinai, Dr. Jordan Vaughn does work with the vaccine injured community and does have protocols for them too. So I strongly recommend them. And then I also talked about Real Not Rare and reactvaccine.org. So both are just websites that are useful for the vaccine injured community in general. Real Not Rare has other stories of vaccine injured, so you guys can know that you're not alone, that we're a community of people, and have some validation there. And React 19 is a donation-based organization that can actually help you with certain treatments and et cetera if you are kind of dealing with the financial burden of being vaccinated. So I think they're all great websites.
Yeah. I mean, because not only do we lose our jobs, we lose our insurance. On top of that, the medical costs are astronomical. So,
and alternative treatments too.
Right.
They're all astronomical.
Yeah.
Like
and that
HBOT, naturopaths, all of this.
Right.
Yeah.
And
the vaccine doctors.
Yeah. They're all very expensive. And that stress alone can worsen our symptoms and worsen our condition. So, again, I mean, the biggest part of this awareness, the biggest reason for this channel is A, awareness, B, just, we're just pleading for help. We just want people to be able to tell us, okay, this is what's going on. Here's a possible solution. And that's really my end goal in the end is just getting back to where we were and just raising awareness to the point where we don't have this type of tragedy again. I mean, because it's horrible what's happening.
Oh, it is. And I think, like I said, I would gladly come back and talk to you all about the political side of all of this.
Yes.
I think I'll extend just a little bit upon that. So I think for me, it's not only to heal, which is like the number one, is just to get myself better for my husband, for my dog, for the chance of potentially having a child down the line.
Yes.
By the way, we've been told we need to freeze embryos because it's probably not going to happen. But regardless.
Yeah, I've heard.
Yeah, that has not been fun. But I want to get better. That's number one. But then I also want to take this, if you get lemons, you make lemonade. So how do I help other people, and how do I make a change so that this is not happening to others, especially to kids? And these mandates, they're just, all of that just boils my blood too. So it's like I want to be proactive, but I also don't want to always be living in that space all of the time with such activity, because it deters
it's not healthy
and detracts from my healing journey too. So it's like I have to find this balance of advocacy and helping others, but also taking those moments to myself where I'm like, I need to.
You got to step back. Yeah, it's it's definitely insidious. I mean, I find myself, on social media way too much. And I notice when I'm on social media way too much, my neurological symptoms get worse. My seizures come back. The head pressure, the eye pain, all comes back. The dizziness comes back. So, yeah, I mean, we definitely need time to peel back, step back for a little while, and come back and re-engage in trying to bring on awareness. But we're not going to stop. So they can censor us, they can take us down, they can call us liars, but I will never stop doing this until there's some sort of resolution. We're not going anywhere.
I think it's going to continue towards that path because, like we said, the narrative is starting to change and people are becoming more aware. It wasn't a bat; it was a lab leak. Like
100%.
we were getting more information, so I think the narrative will change, and hopefully, like we said, those people will, have their justice too. Like something will happen to those people. I don't wish them ill, but
no.
I'll do his thing.
Well, I thank you so much. I mean, from the bottom of my heart, thank you so much for being here. And I look forward to an update in the next time we talk. So, yeah, I mean, that's going to basically wrap it up for today. Thanks, everybody, for being here, and we'll see you in the next one.
Yes. All right. Bye.